to talk about uh, those allergies. They come up every year, right? And if you are one of the allergy sufferers that go through this every year, you know what that's like. And you know how difficult and stressful it can be. So we're going to talk about some tips to help with those allergy meditations as we head into allergy meditations. I'm sorry, allergy medications and such. What we might want to include, what we might want to stay away from if we are suffering from such things. And also we're going to talk about some of the stress, because again, particularly in around this time of year, there's a lot of things going on with we're just getting through back to school and getting that schedule sort of solidified, and then there is all of the fall activities that are going on, and then holiday time is right around the corner. So before you know it, you are dealing with all kinds of stress. So let's talk about how to deal with that first. So conscious breathing. When you're starting to feel stressed out, when anxiety is starting to rise, a simple way to calm and center yourself is through conscious breathing. And it also can focus and energize you too. So the basic breathing exercise involves exhaling completely. And it's not hard to do. Just take in a deep breath and let it out steadily. And then squeeze a little bit more with your diaphragm. And this exercise will help you build up muscles in your core. And you will take in deeper breaths. And breathing, by the way, is one of the most important health steps you can take. Breathing energizes so much in your body. That's kind of why we do it. But now we will become conscious of how we do it. And by becoming conscious of that, we can get even more out of it as far as releasing of stress and calmness. And then another exercise, if you're needing to sort of get yourself stimulated for something, is the stimulating breath, in which you inhale and exhale rapidly through your nose, but you keep your mouth closed but relaxed. Short breaths, equal in duration, and it's kind of noisy. 3 in and out breath cycles per second. Sounds like that. You keep it short, maybe 15 seconds the first time you try it, and then you can sort of increase it a little bit each time, and maybe set a goal of maybe you can reach a full minute within maybe a week or two. So those are 2 breath approaches to calmness. And just to clarify, I think, because I do get questions about this, being calm and being energized are not exclusive, mutually exclusive. You can be energized and calm at the same time. In fact, the most effective energy that you feel is the energy that comes when you're calm and centered. The energy that comes out of freneticness, franticness, busyness is certainly, it'll get you there, but it's also got damaging effects in that it is triggering the flight or fight response in the body, which shuts down the immune system and then causes illnesses. Whereas the energy that comes from calmness is coming from the relaxation response, so that your body is able to be more in tune, isn't shutting down, but is actually up, aware, and the immune system is active in keeping you safe and protected and healthy. So an important tip there. Now also, let's take a look at this allergy situation I mentioned, and ways we can help ourselves with that. So if you have autumn allergies, one of the things, if you haven't tried it yet, it's been popular for a few years now, is using a neti pot. A problem though with the neti pot is that some people aren't quite sure of the appropriate way to use it. So if you have sinus problems, if you have nasal congestion, you might want to try this. It actually comes from a Hindu Ayurvedic tradition, and I'm sure that you've seen neti pots. They look like little white genie's lamps, and there's a warm saltwater solution that irrigates the nasal passages, and this gets the mucus to be thinner and easily flushed out. And it's easy, but it may be discomforting at first. So what you do is you dissolve a 1/4 teaspoon of salt in a cup of boiled warm water and pour the solution into the neti pot. Usually when you buy these neti pots, they give you a pack of a solution of a powder to put into the water that's made up of salt. But you don't need this, you can do it yourself. So over the sink, then you tilt your head about 45 degrees to the side, and you place the spout right into your higher nostril, and you gently pour the salt water solution into it, and you let it flow through to the lower nasal cavity. I don't know if you get some in your throat, but you might. You can just spit it out. Then once the solution is all gone, you can blow your nose to get rid of any remaining solution, and then try with the other nostril until you begin to feel like you have relieved that congestion. So neti pots, yes, something to try if you are dealing with congestion at this time of the year. Alright, so now it's time to do our segment on Pioneers of Consciousness. Pioneers of Consciousness. Now last week we talked about the work of Rick Doblin in using psychedelics to help improve humankind by disclosing a spiritual dimension of consciousness that is shared by all of us, regardless of our religious beliefs or lack thereof. And one of the things that Mr. Doblin likes to say, and forms the foundation of his work in experimental trials with psychedelics, such as MDMA, or commonly known as ecstasy, and also as well as others like psilocybin. What he likes to say is that mysticism is the antidote to fundamentalism. And that's just an amazing quote that I wholeheartedly agree with. So our next consciousness pioneer is a man by the name of Bob Jesse. He also has been involved in these new psychedelic trials. And he originally was an engineer, not a scientist at all. He still isn't a scientist, but he has spent much of his time and energy in supporting this kind of work. He worked for Oracle in San Francisco for a while, and he even got up into the senior management of it. And he had always been curious about psychedelics, and in fact experimented a bit with them in his 20s, throughout and a little bit after college. And during one of the experimentations that he had at this time, after having taken a dose of LSD, he says that he had a non-dual experience that would prove transformative. And so he describes what this experience was, a non-dual experience. Basically, a non-dual experience is actually what I've been describing throughout most of this episode of the show. The concept that you are here and not here at the same time. You are here and there at the same time. You are higher and lower at the same time. I was lying on my back underneath a ficus tree. I knew it was going to be a strong experience. And the point came where the little I, still was just starting to slip away. I lost all awareness on the floor in an apartment in Baltimore. I couldn't tell if my eyes were opened or closed. What opened up before me was, for lack of a better word, a space, but not our ordinary concept of space, just the pure awareness of a realm without form and void of content. And into that realm came a celestial entity, which was the emergence of the physical world. It was like the Big Bang, but without the boom or the blinding light. It was the birth of the physical universe. In one sense, it was dramatic, maybe the most important thing that had ever occurred in the history of the world. Yet, it just sort of happened. I was a diffusely located observer. I was coextensive with this emergence. And he says that it is hard to find words to describe it, as is true of all mystical experiences. Words fail continuously. But what he says is the awareness transcends any particular sensory modality. There was no terror, only fascination and awe. And Jesse says that he watched the birth of everything, followed the emergence of life, and from there the arrival of what we call humans, then the acquisition of language, and the unfolding of awareness, all the way up to oneself. Here in the room, surrounded by my friends, I had come all the way back to right where I was. How much clock time had elapsed? I had no idea.